Hello, I'm Alma Schneider. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and the proud mother of 4 children, one of whom has Prader Willi syndrome.
And I am Iris Miller. I'm a certified rehabilitation counselor and the proud mother of 2 children, one of whom has quadriplegic cerebral palsy and is nonverbal.
In this podcast, we discuss the uncensored truth about raising children with disabilities.
Prepare to laugh, cry, and hopefully learn something new.
This is 2 Moms, No Fluff.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of 2 Moms, No Fluff, the podcast in which we discuss the uncensored truth about raising kids with disabilities. I am Iris Miller, and I'm here with my lovely, smart, beautiful partner, Alma Schneider. Alma, hello.
Hello, Iris. Thank you for that very kind introduction. I'm very happy today that we have a very special guest who I've known. I know exactly how long I've known him because I've known him since my son was born. So just about 19 and a half years. Mike LeDonne. And I'm just going to let you tell us a little bit about who you are, Mike. Give us a little bit of background about where you're from, where you live, what you do.
Oh, well, I live in New York City with my family. I'm a jazz musician, of all things. And I started the Disability Pride Parade in New York City in 2015, which Alma actually helped me work on in the beginning. And my daughter, Mary, is multiply disabled and was born with the same syndrome that Alma's son has, Prader Willi syndrome, a year before Lincoln. So that's how we got to know Alma, because it's so rare that, I remember when Mary was born, my daughter, Mary, they didn't know what was going on. And then the gene specialist there said, I think I see something that's like this weird, very strange syndrome that. And so they figured it out. And then Alma's son was born, and they said, we got another one all of a sudden a year later. But I think really it's just that it's so underdiagnosed, and they're just figuring out how to diagnose it early. So that's me, and that's how I got to meet Alma.
Mike, thank you so much for being here in the first place, and also taking this opportunity to thank you for all your activism, advocacy, and work in this space of the disability community at large. I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind sharing with our audience, how did you even get started with your advocacy and activism work?
Well, my daughter was born, so that did it. But what made me get started was it was the everyday trials and tribulations, not of her disabilities, because that wound up being not that big a deal, to tell you the truth. But it was the world out there that was just hell bent on being against us. It felt like just rolling that rock up the hill every day and having people stare at Mary and all of the crazy ableism that I didn't even know that word existed, but I sure got a dose of it, and it was so concerning to me that I thought I wanted to do something to make her life better, and in doing so, I think I helped make a lot of people's lives at least focus some light on their lives. And that's the only thing that I was able to that I wanted to do. That was my vision. And as a result, now I'm seen as an activist, but I don't see myself as an activist. I see myself as, a father who loves his daughter and who wanted to help her and saw these injustices that are numerous. Mm-hmm. So that's what did it.
Yeah. And I think that that's true for all of us. We never intended to be these, activists and poster parents for our kids, but the world kind of pushes us into that position because of the ableism. I know that there were some struggles creating the parade. Can you talk a little bit about the process of getting the whole thing off the ground?
Yeah, struggles is right. I went into it so green because I knew nothing about the disability community or their history. And so I got started on Facebook just seeing who might want to be involved with helping me figure out how to put together a parade, which was inspired by the Gay Pride Parade
Hmm.
that I had been seeing. And I thought, why isn't there a Disability Pride Parade to celebrate the disability community? There wasn't one. And then slowly but surely, some people did react. So what I did basically was I got groups of people together, which Alma was in one of the groups, and we would just meet at my house. And people would say, "Well, I know a little bit about fundraising. I know a little bit about how to get in touch with the mayor's office." And little by little, I learned, and I tried to get people to help me um, figure out what do you do? How do you put out a parade? And it was a far more involved process than I ever dreamed. And there were all these obstacles, not only politically, but even from the disability community. There was pushback because I'm not disabled. And I understood the pushback. They didn't want the non-disabled savior, thing to happen. And that's exactly what I must have looked like. And so there was some real, like, no, you're not going to be the guy. And I was like, great. I don't want to be the guy, actually. Like, why don't you take it? Because I had formed a nonprofit and I went through getting that together. And nobody seemed to want to take over, though. So I just was the default guy to put it together. It wasn't something I actually was yearning to do. It wasn't a divine passion of mine or anything. I just kind of started doing it, and little by little, what I have is perseverance. I guess because I'm a jazz musician, you can't be a jazz musician without perseverance. And I just kept pushing and seeing like, okay, well, that's one little hump we got over. What about the next hump? And before you knew it, I got through all the humps. I did it pretty much in record time, according to people who know how nonprofits usually work. I got right to the party without knowing anything about what I was doing. Like I had no committees, I had no real structure in my nonprofit. It was just a bunch of people, grassroots as hell, trying
Yeah.
to just figure out how do we do it. Let's get it up and running, and we wound up doing it. I got my nonprofit established in 2014, and by 2015 we had our first parade.
It was pretty incredible and pretty massive. I think that the first year that you did it was that the 25th anniversary of the ADA? Was that right?
Yeah, which was
Okay.
a surprise too. I had no
Yeah,
idea.
it was.
It was
Yeah,
divine intervention right there. I have
it
no
was. So we had there was a huge crowd, huge crowd. It was really incredible. But you mentioned something that,
idea.
we deal with a lot. It's, being a parent of someone with a disability. We're often at odds with the disability community because we all have different roles, and it's unfortunate sometimes we don't mesh, and we're all trying to do the best for the disability community, but it's something that really needs to be worked on in our society so that we can all work together to make the world a better place for people with disabilities. But
Yeah.
sometimes we're kind of surprised, like, wow, well, we're trying to help, and we're being told that
That's why,
we have
that's
no
why I
business
don't
being
I
here.
don't like the word, I don't like to be called an activist because some activists, their thing is, I see activism all across the spectrum. Sometimes they get so into the activism, they forget the reason why they're being activists, which is
Hmm.
to bring about positive change. And anything that brings about positive change should
Hmm.
be accepted, and there should be solidarity on that ground alone.
Yeah.
But through going through the history, being so intelligent about the history of this, I understand the the suspicion
Yes.
that comes along with being non-disabled. I mean, there are so many people. Well, basically, the entire infrastructure of services that deals with disability, they're all on the take. They're
Hmm.
all making money off the disability community and giving not that much. They're making way more than they're giving, and this is a real source of anger. Even in me, I'm so angry at the way things run or don't run, I should say. You can never get what you need when you need it. You always
Yeah.
have to go through a fight that's a long process, and for the simplest things in the world that anyone else could just go out and do in 2 seconds, you're
Hmm.
taking weeks, months to get the same thing accomplished. So when somebody comes along that's non-disabled doing something like this, there's going to be all kinds of suspicious eyes. That what's in it for you? What do you
Hmm.
get out of this? You must be making a lot of money on this, And I would tell them I'm making zero money on this, and it's just coming from my heart because it's out of love. Nobody believes that, and it even sounds crazy to me in this day and age. Somebody says,
Yeah.
"I'm doing it out of love." Oh, isn't
Well, you
that?
have a child. I mean,
But it's
that's,
true. It's
yeah,
true. I mean, you. This is why you do it. It's a love is a powerful force, and I never knew that until this parade came along, and I see all these people coming down the street, thousands of people with their signs and with their groups, and for hours they're coming down the street, and you realize, wow, look what I did just from this love of not just me. I mean, everybody who worked on it, but I certainly was the spearhead,
hmm,
and and that's a real good feeling, And I
yeah,
think, and I feel like people have come to see me differently now after all these years. That I'm not on the take. They know I'm not doing it for any reason that's for my own self grat. Well, I do get self gratification just seeing it
yeah,
happen.
sure,
That that's
sure,
my payment right there.
yeah.
Yeah, and I want to say for anyone who did not have the pleasure of ever being in the Disability Pride Parade in New York, it's just like such an amazing, huge event, huge celebration of people of all abilities, different disabilities, different organization. It's just thousands of people. And for our family joining the parade with our two young children, one of them does have a disability, it was such like a joyful event every year because it's like this is where our family belongs. These are our people. And I am happy that I have this opportunity now to thank you on a personal level for bringing this something out of nothing, right? And it's such a magnitude that it's been really a blessing for our community to have something like that. And as you know, Alma has initiated the same thing now in New Jersey, and this is going to be this year at what date? May 18th?
May 18th is ours.
Oh, it
May
is May 18th.
Yes, May
Oh,
18th, May
wow,
19th.
coming right up.
Yes, this is our fourth annual, inspired by you, Mike LeDonne. And so I'm really proud of spearheading this in Montclair, and now we have other people working along. It's not just me anymore, and it's very inspiring, and it's a beautiful day that
It
we
is.
all
I've been to it.
participated. That's
I've been.
right. You came
Yeah.
and you spoke at it, the very
I
first
spoke at
one.
it. That's right. And it's cool. It's nice that you did that. And because what it does is it breaks down the whole barrier because it's just a good time.
Yeah, yeah.
And,
It was
and
just
I
a good
made
one.
sure that it was that in New York too, because I had pressure on me to make it into more of a grievance march, like a civil rights march.
Right.
And I said, you can do that. You can do anything you want. But the
Hmm.
main thing is, I don't want it to only be "We shall overcome" and
Right.
a gripe session.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can gripe, but I want to have fun, and I want the disabled community to come together. I want the non-disabled community to see us
Yeah.
as people who just
Yeah.
having a day and having fun and listening to entertainment and
Yeah.
talking to each other, and it worked, and
Yeah.
then that's, well, you talk about getting rid of all the divisions and the boundaries. I mean, once they're hanging out, it's like, well, these people they're not weird,
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
isn't
You don't have to be afraid.
this is fun, so that's the vision. Just
Yeah.
bring people together to have a
Yeah.
good time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I loved that Alma did that, because Alma was kind of standoffish about the whole thing, to be honest, in front, right, Alma? I mean, Alma has grown by leaps and bounds. And
Yes, and I've talked about that, how I went from being very private about this and afraid to, at some point you got to stand up and say, if people aren't going to shout out about this, then I'm going to have to do it. So that was kind of my journey, and everybody's goes at their own pace,
Yeah,
no judgment, people
that's right.
have to come to it at their own time. And
Yeah,
I was one of them. I was one of them.
yeah. And yeah, you were
So
just honest. I mean, it's just
yeah,
honest. You weren't going to put on a facade, and I respect that. And but I was just glad that we were able to go through that together.
yeah,
That's how
absolutely.
we, that was the idea when they called me that Alma had a child with the same syndrome. They wanted us to mentor Alma.
I
Alma,
have to tell you something. I think you're remembering it
wrong?
incorrectly.
Oh, okay. How did it? Tell me about
They
it.
they
That's what I.
they the hospital went out of their way, and we'll get back to the activism stuff in a second, but I do want to make it very clear that the hospital kind of went out of their way not to connect us.
You're kidding.
And yes,
Oh my God,
they
that's
I
sad.
asked them to connect. They told me there was a family. It
Ah,
wasn't a year. It wasn't a year. She's only 6. She's
wasn't a whole year.
I'm trying to remember now. But she's I think 6 months older than Lincoln, and something like that. And they said, "Oh," I said, "Please connect us. If there was someone born in this NICU, please connect us. I want to talk to them." And they said, "Oh no, they were very upset. They won't want to talk to you." And I
What?
said, "That was 6 months ago. They're probably better now. You saw them when they were first diagnosed." And they never connected us. And the only reason we found out about each other was because your lactation consultant happened to be
Oh,
working with mine, and
right.
your lactation consultant finally put us together, but they refused to connect us at the hospital, which is something that I have never forgotten, and that it's been
Oh,
my
wow.
mission to tell anybody who has a child with Prader-Willi syndrome to, if I hear about them, say, tell that family that I am very happy to talk with them, because I was
Mhm.
really horrified that they didn't think that we could benefit from knowing one another.
Wow.
And yeah,
Wow.
it was, yeah.
Because
So
the way they called me, when I remember I got the call, they were like, "We were wondering if you'd be nice enough to talk to this woman about she has the same kind of child." And I thought they were soliciting us themselves. So that's an interesting. I think you've told me that before. I just
that
didn't.
came much later. That came
Yeah.
much later. They
Okay.
did not. They would not connect us, and
There you
it
go.
was
There you
pretty
go. The
pretty
ableism
shocking.
is built in from the very start.
Yes, they
You
said, "Oh, they're very upset. They won't want to talk." Of course, they were upset. They were in the NICU right when they got diagnosed. They've had 6 months to deal with
Yeah,
this.
exactly. And the way that they tell you is going to make you upset because they
Exactly.
tell you the most horrifying aspects of these syndromes with
Yes.
no way out. There's just like
Yeah.
it's going to be this and
Yeah.
nothing else.
And
There's no
we have a whole episode on that we have to have you
right,
listen to, Mike,
right.
because you will appreciate it, because we had the same doctor. But anyway, I want to get back to
Yeah.
our next
Okay.
question. You want to ask the next question? I think it was our fourth question,
Yeah,
Iris.
and I wanted to ask you, Mike, about I know now you don't like the word activism, but I want to know
Oh, I don't mind the word activist.
how is that different than actually advocating for your own personal child?
Well, I think there's not much difference. That's how I see it as advocacy, really, more than. I mean, I guess an activist goes out and protests and does stuff away from just the child's life. So I guess that's where it takes a divide because and it hopefully an activist makes a difference for the entire community rather than just the child.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I guess you could say I'm an activist, and what I did makes me one.
Yeah.
But I wanted to say this that none of this would have happened without Mary's birth. So really, Mary caused the parade. And when people say, talk to me about, well, how did I do it? I just say that she did it. She did it because
Hmm.
the whole thing was I just kept going because Mary was there, and I wanted things to be better. So without Mary, this wouldn't have happened. And I think it's an important point because of this. Mary is the type of child that a lot of people give up right away. They put them in institutions or they just get rid of them. You know, and it's very sad to me because Mary not only has Prader Willi, she has other things too, and she's nonverbal. And so she's very vulnerable. And people would see that maybe as a hardship and try and get away from it. But what my real thing that I want to get out here on any thing that I talk about, Mary, is look what her birth did, and look what sticking with her did. And you know, it's been like not only did it do good for the parade, it did good for me and my wife. We both grew by leaps and bounds, and we're much deeper, much better people today from having Mary in our lives. So I'm just saying that to people who get that stupid talk at the hospital
Yeah.
that is just right off the internet. You know, they're just reading the crap that's there. They don't know and they don't care. So that's part of the ableism, as I said, that hits you from the
Yeah.
from day one. You
Yeah.
know,
It's
that's
true.
yeah.
It's true. Um, Now you're, going along with what you're saying about getting, getting the word out there about ableism. I've noticed just because I follow you on Facebook, and I know that you have a lot of followers who are musicians, because you're not just a jazz musician, you are a Grammy nominated jazz musician. I just want to put that out there because you're kind of a big deal. And I noticed that you write these long, involved, detailed, very informative posts on experiences that you have with Mary. And I'm wondering why you do that. And I can tell you the response because I see the responses that you get for it. But why did you start doing that on your personal, page, where you really mostly focus on music and your musical experiences, but you also talk a lot about Mary and things that happen in the world? Just if you could talk a little bit about that.
Well, first of all, it's a lot of coffee that goes into it. But second of all, you know, I mean, that's what Facebook. That's the best aspect of it to me. I'm tired of superficial little pictures of people and things. So I just say, okay, here's a piece of my life. I'm going to
Hmm.
put this out there and see how it flies because
Hmm.
it's all under the banner of raising awareness. And there's no better way to raise awareness than every day. You know, I could write all of this heady stuff about disability and ableism and blah blah blah, and no one, I'll get 2 likes for that. But if I write something right from my life where I'm going through it right now in real time,
Hmm. Hmm.
I'll get lots of people, you know,
Yeah.
because they relate to things like that. They're like, oh, well, I've been through things like that with my child too, and I can understand what's happening. And so I feel to make them feel something,
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
to hit that place where somebody reads something and feels something enough to push like and then say something back.
Hmm.
That's a connection that Facebook can do,
Yeah.
you know. So I try and utilize that for everything, I think. And,
Yeah.
you know, I still don't get the responses sometimes that I wish. I wish people would be more into it. But
Hmm.
I get some good responses on things that I never would have dreamed I would have. So you can't really figure it out, you
Yeah.
know, which ones are going to get the big response and which ones are going to get like a yawn. But
Yeah.
I just put them all up there and see how they fly.
Yeah.
And times they fly pretty well.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it. And it's really a beautiful thing for me to see because you're a professional. You're a serious musician, but you're taking some of that time where people are going to pay attention to you to devote to raising awareness about something else that's important to you. And I really appreciate that. And I
Oh,
really like reading those posts because I think a lot of people don't talk about that, but read it and we're like,
right.
wow, like
You
that's how
know,
I feel.
I have put, well, you know, my latest record is all about my family. It's a organ. I play Hammond organ with a gospel choir, but the jazz is a jazz record.
Wow.
And it's called Wonderful. It has Mary's picture on the cover. And I just put my neck all the way out there. I mean, the whole thing is like how much I love my family, how much I love her. And, and it's got this choir, this great spiritual thing happening on it. So I've gone both feet all the way in. I mean, that's to me like music is really second to everything to my life with my family.
Mhm.
You know, it's like I'm not the music thing's great. I love it. I love being a musician. I'll never stop doing that. But yeah, this thing with Mary and my wife Margaret, it really took over as number one most important thing in the world to me. And I think that's what happens when you have kids. Period.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And this isn't your first album having to do with Mary. Didn't there some few
No,
years
I mean
ago?
everything has to do with Mary, but this one is like all in. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
every song has words that are dealing with her, and because there's some words. There's a
Oh,
quiet.
I got it. We need some info on this album because I need to
Yeah,
hear this
it's
album.
wonderful. I'll send you some info on it.
You
Yeah.
send us the link and we'll post it on
Okay.
our site.
Okay.
Cool.
See that.
I want to ask a question that we didn't have originally on our kind of question list, but I'm very interested in your perspective about the father's perspective. I know that both Alma and I have those ongoing support groups, and it's been always kind of a hard pull to bring the fathers into the conversation, to bring them in, not just for the support group, but also for the work, again, activism, like to help us kind of steer the community in the right direction when we have the need for more voices. So you being so active and involved, I wanted your opinion and thoughts about the father kind of experience and point of view of all of this.
Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm kind of a mother. Too. I mean, I don't know what I can't speak for any other. I don't know of what a regular father. I can only speak for my own experience. But all we have is Mary. We don't have any other children, and and she's a character. I mean, she's so funny, and she's such my pal. Like we're always together. And that's it. I mean, it has nothing to do with mother or father. It's just like I just am all in with her, and I'm sort of like, yay Mary. So there's no way to keep me out if anything comes up about Mary. And my wife is just as involved as I am, of course. But I don't know I don't know what fathers do. I don't even know what a father's perspective is. I mean, I'm a man, so I guess that makes me different than my wife just in gender, but I have the same heart as she does, and I have the same feelings that she does towards Mary, and the same feelings of wanting to be with Mary and make life better. And so I don't really see a different perspective, really. It's just love, period.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm touched. I love listening to this. Thank you.
Right, thank you.
So I guess what would be your greatest tip for someone who is interested in kind of getting out there and doing something outside of the family for the disability community, or not? I mean, what tip of what piece of advice would you give anyone who's given a diagnosis for their child, to what would be to be the next step, to be more happy, to raise awareness, anything at all, any kind of tip you have?
Just
um,
just wait a minute, take your time, see what your child is,
mhm,
give it time to develop. Don't listen to the experts, because you're the expert, and you're going
mhm,
to become the real expert, way more expert than any doctor. And if you take your time and watch that child develop, you're going to see that there's a lot more there than you ever could have imagined. You have no idea what you're where you're going. How could you? You know.
mhm.
So to think that, oh my God, this means this or this means that, you have no idea. And that's what I would tell them. And then as far as getting involved, uh, don't put up with the BS. Take a stand against it, and
Mhm.
go all in. Plant both your feet in the ground on the ground and say, okay, I'm not going to accept this, and I'm going to do all that it takes. I'm going to make all the phone calls. I'm going to send in all the paperwork. I'm going to be running around like this, but I refuse. And you have to become a fighter. And I hate to say it, you have to become kind of an a-hole out here. Because if you're going to be nice about it, it doesn't get anywhere. You have to be strong against it, and it makes you into that kind of a person. But that's all right, because it's for that's what cuts through all of the what do you call it, the runaround.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
the runaround is immense, and they'll tell you, no, you can't get that here. Call those people. Then you wait for 3 hours. Then call, no, that's the wrong
Yeah.
number. Call of it. Just keep calling, and don't
Yeah.
let it go. Don't let it
Yeah.
go. That's all you need to do. Just perseverance. Persevere through it. Be strong.
Which is hard. You know, it's hard for a lot of people, and a lot of people kind of lose hope and they lose the stamina because it's so exhausting. But just keeping our
It
eyes
is.
on the prize, that this is, you know, this is what's going to help our kid, period. And just to,
But without it, there's no chance.
yeah, you're
You know,
right.
and by doing that, you make a difference because if there's enough people doing that, things change.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And even, you know, community is so important. And just having met you and Margaret all those years ago, first time I met you, we were able to commiserate about how awful that same NICU doctor presented the diagnosis to both of us.
Oh, Dr.
Even in, you know,
Addington.
Lincoln was only a few weeks old at that time. And I was like, oh my God, that was so great to hear that it wasn't just me being overly sensitive, that
Oh,
this guy did a terrible job of the
yeah,
entree into the syndrome. So
right.
that was really helpful to me. So connecting with people, you know, is so important, and being able to, you know,
Yeah,
create community to
yeah.
help to lift each other up, to commiserate, to work through things. So thank you for that all those years ago, and everything else that you've done. It's really made a difference in our life.
Oh,
I
thanks,
want to
Alex.
say something that's kind of when we are reaching the end of our conversation today, that probably there are enough parents out there listening into this episode and thinking, oh my gosh, this is so big and wide. And I want to go back to what is personal is political. And every little achievement that you have with your child in an IEP meeting, you are paving the way to someone else. Every time you have a doctor telling you something rude about your child with a disability and you correct them, you're paving the way to someone else. Activism can be done in very small ways and very personal ways. So given that Mike has done something incredibly large and incredibly impressive for the disability community and the community as a whole, there are ways to achieve change that is significant, even on a private, very personal level. And
And we have an
before,
episode about that.
Mhm. And before we kind of, I guess, conclude the conversation today, Mike, I wanted to ask you if you have anything else you want to share with our audience today.
I want to say thank you to you, both of you. I'd like to share that with the audience because it's nice that you're taking the time to do this and to get this word out there. And if more people did this, and all of the, I guess you have a group of people that get together. Is that true?
Yes, we have I have a group that I've been facilitating for 15 years, and we're up to over 500 families.
You're
We're,
kidding.
yes, we're online as well as a drop-in group every week.
Oh,
And Iris has a group with over 300 families in Michigan. She
wow,
moved to Michigan. So we're really trying to, you know, and it grows every day. And
amazing.
we're just trying to create community so that
Yeah,
people get what they need. There's emotional support, practical support, and this is a way. The podcast is a way to, you know, reach even more people who can't get
right.
out of the house, or in more rural areas, or, you know, don't have a community that they can be a part of.
Amazing. It's amazing. I mean, the point is this, and I always put this word. I like this word, diversity. And when you have a disabled child, don't look at it as a problem. Just look at your child as part of the diversity of
Hmm.
humanity.
Yeah,
So it's just a different way of being human. And your job is to just get in there and figure it out.
yeah, yep. It's a challenge.
It can be a challenge, but it's also fascinating. And,
Yes,
and it's enriching, and it's beyond anything you can get unless you have a disabled child. And people don't believe that, but it really is true. It's enriching, and it's got
yes.
all these positive aspects. All you hear about are negative things,
Hmm. Hmm.
but the positive aspects are far outweigh really
Yeah,
the negative things of the child itself, of the person, of the human being.
yes.
The negativity is all the outside world. That's where that lies.
You're right. You're right. You're right. Well, thank you so much, Mike. It's really been a pleasure. Thank you for taking the time. I know you're a very busy person, and we're really happy that you were able to talk with us.
Thank you,
And we
Amma.
hope we'll see you at the Montclair Disability Pride Parade, May 18th. Rain date,
Okay.
May 19th. Hope to see you and Mary
What
there. And
time?
Mark,
What time?
1 to 4 And we're going to have the rally. I mean, the short parade, and then the rally, where we're going to have lots of performers and speakers who all have disabilities to either be artistic in their performances, poetic, musical, and just talk about their lives. So it's a very beautiful day, as you know, and we hope to see everyone there.
All
And
right.
for our listeners in Michigan, we don't have a date yet, but we are bringing Abilities Pride Parade to Midland, Michigan. And once we have a date, it would be all over our social media. And Mike, we are kind of carrying the torch wide and far. And thank you again for all that you have done and are doing. And it's been a pleasure talking to you today.
My pleasure. Thanks so much. Nice to meet you. Okay.
Thank you. If anyone has questions for Mike or Alma or myself, please write to us at info@2momsnofluff. You're welcome to join our online support group. Again, 2 Moms No Fluff on Facebook. Looking forward to seeing you again on our next episode, and have a wonderful week. Bye.
Bye.
For more information, please go to www.twomomsnofluff.com. Thank you.
If you like this podcast, please subscribe and give it a 5-star rating so more people can hear it. Thank you.